Hey there, Squirrel Army. Today we're doing another deck tech. This one is for Tura Kennerüd Skyknight. This is an azorius spellslinger deck here that we're building for today. This is an interesting type of deck for me to build, at least. I don't typically build these style of decks where you don't really have many creatures and whatnot, but in this deck and in decks that are like this, much like Tauren, you really think of your spells as if they're your creatures that also draw you cards or ramp you or whatever else. We're going to have a lot of interesting cards in this deck. We are also going to need some amount of protection. I'm not huge on protection spells and whatnot for the most part because I don't find that they're too useful for me in the decks that I typically play. But I don't think we want to run Lightning Greaves or Swiftfoot Boots in this deck. We really want to run as many instant and sorceries as we can, and we do need to protect our commander in some way because otherwise our game plan might be shut down. So if you don't know what this commander does, by the way, I better go through it just to explain exactly what's going on here. So this is a 5-banner 3/3 flyer. It's 2 white and 2 blue. Whenever we cast an instant or sorcery, we create a 1/1 soldier creature token. Now, those soldier creature tokens probably aren't the best tokens that we can be generating by any creature. We really want things with evasion, or we really want things that are big. This is a, creature that has flying itself, so it's a bit odd that it makes, creatures that are on the ground, but then again, it's odd that some of the creatures that make things in the air. So, whatever. It is what it is. It makes what it makes. And we're going to try to build a deck around this. So, we better get over and have a look at the actual deck list. If you're enjoying the content here, you can join the Squirrel Army by subscribing and turning on the notification. Alrighty, my dudes. This is a quick look at the list that I've worked on and put together here. It's an interesting list with some interesting cards. It did come to $266 odd there, so it's not that cheap. It's not $0 definitely. But of course, it could be a lot more. I did go for a lot more of the more budget dual lands that I felt were good. Obviously, again, you could go for the tapped dual lands. I'm not a huge fan of those. I don't really think it's worth it unless you just want to test a deck or whatever. But from there, you should know whether you like the deck or not, even if it's running badly because of the land base. But I'm not going to go through the land base too much because, well, those people who want to work on it on a budget will work finding those budget lands, and those people who want to not really care and just have the best lands that they can already know the best lands that they can put into a deck like this. So not really going to go over it too much. Alright, and I'm not going to go through the artifacts as far as ramp too much because it's basically a lot of the typical stuff and whatnot that you would expect. But yes, it's a lot of 2-mana ramp spells here that are put in. I think Talisman of Progress being the most expensive one because apparently they hate Azorius and didn't want to print it or reprint it, so that is what that is. But hey, the rest is there and can do some stuff for this deck, or I couldn't find anything else in the limited time that I had to try to make this deck, at least. So let's go through some of the enchantments. We don't have a huge amount of enchantments. We have certainly some very important ones. Swarm Intelligence to help us copy our spells. getting extra tokens and extra spells, extra value out of what we're casting is very important and useful for what we're doing. Song of the World. So we're going to be casting lots of spells and we're going to be wanting to, make extra tokens. So that's very useful. Does all those things for us. Shark Typhoon, I felt we needed some more things that flied in this deck. Our commander does make tokens, but it doesn't make flying tokens, which I felt was a little bit irksome. So I felt we need something like this as a backup to our commander to be able to get those flyers going and beat people up, or additional effects to get flyers so that we can get in there, because that's what we need to do. Precognition to, cast spells off the top. Very useful to get more spells deep into our deck. Sanctum can reduce our spells cost and can let us scry cards when we cast spells, so very useful. That card selection. Divine Visitation, we really need to change the tokens that we're making. We want to make useful tokens. We want to make tokens that will kill our opponent's evasive tokens, so this is very useful. Cathar's Crusade, we need to turn our tokens into lethal things, so again, whenever a creature enters, we can buff all of our creatures, and that can really help us out by getting through that damage. Eventually, we can overwhelm our opponents by making so many tokens and making our tokens big enough that we can get through with what we're doing, because that's what we're doing. Anointed Procession is another card. I'm not 100% that we 1000% need it, but it's a very decent card in this deck. We're making lots of tokens, so just doubling that up is a useful effect most of the time, especially when we've got lots of generators for those effects. When you don't have a lot of generators, it's sort of a spell that you kind of skip through. I'm going to skip through most of the creatures now, or hope so, at least anyway. Archmage Emeritus, just card draw for our instant sorceries. Avenwind gives our tokens flying, vigilance, which is all very good. Beanie lets us draw cards from, making tokens, which is something we want. Gale, we can essentially flashback spells whenever we cast spells, so that's very useful. A Kefnet rather, draws us more cards, so, and whatnot. So, and if we draw the right spells, as we would tend to do in this deck, for the most part, with most of its instant sorceries, well, our spells will be less, and whatnot, or the copies will be less at least. Junkwinder comes down pretty quickly, and it does help us tap down our opponent's stuff. We need to get through with our stuff and overwhelm our opponents, so that really helps us out fairly quickly. Legislator, we're really relying on this for ourselves. If our opponents trigger it for us, that's an additional bonus. But we're going to be casting a fair amount of instant sorceries, or at least instants, so we want this kind of effect. It is fairly expensive because it's very good and whatnot, but still we want it as much as we can. Rumor Gatherer, scrying whenever a creature enters and then drawing a card if it's a second creature. Really useful. We need that sort of card advantage. Again, Counselor 4, we're more relying on this to us doing the things. We're not really relying on our opponents to doing the things that, this will trigger off. But if our opponents do trigger it off, that's it, just extra benefits. Reality Chip can look at the top, can play cards from the top, very useful. Wild Wind Rider Wizard, instant sorcery spell, we can draw a card, discard a card, so looting. Wizards of Thay makes our instant sorcery spells cost one less. It's really only useful with the flash and when it myriads and when we have the ability to cast a lot of spells or whatnot, but still very useful. So yeah. Other spells that we're going to get into, I think we'll go through sorceries first because there's less sorceries to talk about. Battle Screech, making birds. We want as much evasion as we can get, and this is a pretty decent spell. You can get those birds really going pretty quickly. Once you do, farewell, just removal if we're behind. We're not, and if we're ahead, we're not going to choose creatures for the most part. You know, and it can help us get rid of some other hurtful permanents and whatnot, or someone's graveyard. Finale, just one of the dumbest spells that we can put into this deck. If we have lots of mana, if we can get to that 10, we also get that many angels, which is really useful. Increasing devotion, just one of the classic token generating spells that we can put into a deck like this. So, yep, that's great. The Vile Duplication is one of those things we probably often will copy our commander with to get extra triggers going with all of our other instant sorceries we're casting. But we can copy other things, but it's best when we do copy our commander. Ponder, just card draw, card selection, same with Preordain. Rise from Tide, just can make a whole bunch of zombies for us with the number of instant sorceries that'll be in our graveyard and whatnot, so that's really useful. Rite of Replication, we can clone something a whole bunch of times, so that can be really useful. We usually want to use it on some tokens, especially evasive tokens. Said and Done does two different things. We can return an instant or sorcery card from our graveyard, or tap two creatures and they don't untap during the next untap step, so that can be useful. Shram's Expertise can make some servos, and we can cast something for 3 or less from our hand without paying its cost, which can be useful. Visions of Glory, really great in this deck as well. Create a whole bunch of humans, especially with the flashback, you know, and whatnot. So that can be really, really powerful in certain circumstances and in certain board states and whatnot. So we'll go through the instance now. Chroma's Will. Again, we want this both on offense and defense, so it's really useful. And if we have our commander, we get both, and that just means that we've really got a really strong finisher in this deck. Anticipate, just more card draw. Boon of Safety, just to protect our commander. Consider, just for card selection, card draw. Depose, sorry. Tap a creature, we draw a card, that's okay. Or make a whole bunch of, or make 2 Thopters and whatever, our commander will trigger off that. And yeah, so yeah, it does some stuff. Exotic Pets, we make some unblockable fish, that's useful, and we put shield counters out. Oh no, wait, this isn't the shield counters one, sorry. It's the proliferate one, sorry. But yeah, still useful. Faithful Mending, draws us cards, has flashback, that's useful. Frantic Search, just more card draw. Generous Gift for removal. God's Willing, more protection. Crescendo to get a whole bunch of tokens. Impulse for more card draw, more card selection. Lazatep to protect our commander. Mission Briefing, card selection, stroke recursion. Opt, just card selection, card draw, path removal, obvious. Test is basically a board wipe here for us. We basically want to bounce all of our opponent's stuff and whatnot, and leave most of our stuff there. And, you know, even if we bounce our commander, that's fine. We've probably got a board state that can take over the game. Reality Shift, Resculpt, both for removal, and then Rootborn Defenses, and another protection spell. Secure the Waste for more tokens, Shelter for more protection, and Shadiri Shelter for more protection. They also cantrip, so that's alright. Slip out the back, more protection, and Swords, just more removal. So that is the deck. That is the list that I've come up with. And I actually just realized that the commander's not even in the list here, like a smart person. But there you go. We'll cut something out for it in whatever. If you want to know, it's probably a land or something, because we don't need that many land in this deck or whatnot. Or maybe Wizards of Thay or something. I don't know right now. But yes, so I had a bit of a long crunch for this one, so unfortunately I probably missed that. So sorry about that. But anyway, still fairly decent for just putting it together. Maybe I'll get rid of Ponder or something or whatever. But anyway, yes, that is what it is. Or maybe increasing devotion. But anyway, you guys can let me know what you think. Which card would you cut here or whatnot? Let me know in the comments below. I'll be sure to respond. And you can let me know what you think about this deck, this list, and whatnot. Down there as well. But if I don't see you down there in those comments telling me what other decks you might want to see me build or whatever, I'll see you in the next one.